Welcome back to Faith Explorations. Today we have a very special guest, Father Emmanuel Noel, a discalced Carmelite friar from Singapore who's doing his licentiate in spirituality at CITeS in Ávila, Spain. He calls himself a Spanish shepherd to the Singlish community. And today we're going to find out exactly what that means, along with his journey into the Carmelite life, what it's like living in the homeland of St Teresa of Avila, and how Carmelite spirituality speaks to our world today. So settle in, grab a drink, and let's dive into this beautiful episode. So, Father, we can talk about your vocation story now.
No!
When did you first sense your call to the Carmelite life?
You know, that's very interesting, and that and many people have asked me that. And honestly, when I was starting to be more serious in my discernment, whether to be a priest or to go into religious life, honestly, it was not Carmelite vocation that I started out with. So it was actually, honestly speaking, diocesan, because most of the time it was the diocesan posters, our parish priests, majority are diocesans, you know. So I actually went through that route first. But as I would now sum it up today, I didn't search for Carmel, but Our Lady of Mount Carmel searched for me, you know. So somehow along the way in my vocation, she planted people from the Carmelite fraternity, and she also created opportunities for me to have contact with the Carmelite friars, which actually then caught my attention, because I really didn't know much about Carmelite spirituality, the vocation. When I started discerning, I was still quite clueless, to be very, very honest. So when I was speaking to one Carmelite friar, and he asked me this question, so tell me, are you familiar with St Teresa and St John of the Cross? And I still remember my first reaction, who? Oh dear, isn't it? Oh dear. So that was how bad it was. So I really didn't start out with Carmelite in mind at all, because I was clueless about it. And as I look back now, I marvel at how the Lord worked, and how Our Lady kind of attracted me towards this charism. And when I started to know more and read up more, I don't know, I just found it so, for want of a better word, just so attractive. That finding God wasn't meant to be difficult, because God was meant to be found within. And that was exactly what St Teresa of Jesus herself discovered as she read the Confessions of St Augustine. When St Augustine exclaimed after a while, after his many years of philosophical thought, theological search for God, and he says, "Late have I searched for you, and I've been looking for you at all the wrong places at outside, but all this while you have been within me." And so as I got myself more familiar with the Carmelite spirituality, the works of Teresa and John, suddenly this attraction was real. And then somehow everything just slowly fell in place as I got to know the fraternity better, and as I continued my discernment with them. At one final point, I just knew that I think this is it. This is how I would like to live out my vocation calling. And here I am, 12 years already, and still very happy, and zero regrets, you know, that if God has put me here, then it can't be wrong. And I'm very, very happy. Yeah.
What was the moment like for you? What were you doing, and when the thought came to you that this is it?
When there was a sudden wave, a sudden wash over of peace, that I've stopped searching, you know, because during I don't know about the other brothers or sisters out there who are discerning or who have discerned, but I think they will agree with me that during our period of discernment, there's always that anxiousness, you know, there's always that, so scared, like, am I doing the right thing? Your heart is always beating, you're always going, Lord, what is this you want? Tell me, give me some sign, give me some direction, I'm scared. And it's very scary, But when I finally made that decision, because when the Carmelite fraternity told me that, say, Emmanuel, we feel that you might have a vocation with us, but in order for us and for you to also know better, we invite you that if you would like to, write your letter of application to apply, to join, then you can start your discernment more formally. After I had written that letter, and after I had submitted, I had a tremendous sense of peace. It's like, I've done it. I know I've made that step. And that moment, your hair just stands up and it's like, yes, it's correct. And a certain sense of peace that I did not need to think or not saying no need to think or discern further, but don't have to be worried and choices and options. That was it, no more. I was very, very happy, and that feeling has remained until today. So that's that moment, a great sense of peace, a peace that only the Lord can give. Only the Lord can give a genuine peace that lasts. So I'm very proud to say, that the Lord has granted me this peace, and I really hope for the peace to last. Always,
What is it about the charism that resonated deeply with you as you were searching compared to other religious orders or dioceses?
I really didn't also find out very much more about the other religious orders. So after diocesan, when I had contact with the Carmelite fraternity, the spirituality, and the charism, and as I delved deeper into it, somehow I didn't feel any urge to say, maybe I better check out on others. I don't know why. I just don't know why. Today, I still cannot give you an answer. Maybe it's because I just felt so comfortable and so happy with what I've already discovered. Then, of course, that I didn't really make that much effort to go and find out more. Today, of course, I have a better understanding of all the spiritualities. Well, maybe not all, but in my many years right now, I have come in contact with Ignatian spirituality, Franciscan spirituality, and they're fantastic. But I can see that the Carmelite spirituality remains strong in me. So for whatever reason, the Lord knew that I've already picked you. Our Lady also said, I've already chosen you to be my son in Carmel. So perhaps at that very moment, there was no necessity for me to go find out more. And today, like I said, even though I have greater knowledge, not fantastic knowledge, but greater knowledge of the other spirituality, I'm very convinced that I'm really in love with our Carmelite spirituality to live it out. Yeah.
I agree. As you were saying, I just thought of the words of having found a pearl of great price.
I would think so too. And the interesting thing, as I was mentioning, I was not really looking for that Carmelite pearl per se at the start. But it was there, and Our Lady led me to that pearl. Yeah, and that's really my vocation story up to today. Yeah.
Okay. Ain't got any questions you, Kaypoh, want to ask? Oh, okay.
That's great.
Yes.
That's okay. No need to squeeze out more, but it's all right.
So far,
Because he's thinking, I was like, then I was like, oh, maybe he got some questions he want to ask.
Who is thinking of him?
Yeah.
question.
Come on, go for it.
Question.
What did your family
Response.
how did your family react?
Right, yeah.
After you decided that you want to be a priest?
I think I'm very blessed. This entire journey, I really had no obstacles whatsoever from my family. Even though I have to say it was initially tough because my dad at that time was very ill, was very, very ill. And so I was also very worried to say, is this the right time, to leave my job as a civil servant, paying me very well every month, and then join a seminary, of course, now with no more income. And both my parents, by then, had retired. My dad was getting on with age and he was in pretty poor health, and my mom had to take care of him. So I was actually, in a way, in a dilemma, but so is this the right time, where are we going to get the money to sustain? But my mom and my dad never ever stood in my way. In fact, they encouraged me, my sister, my brother-in-law, my church friends, my entire family, the whole, family in terms of blood relation and the family of the parish. I had nothing but encouragement. I had good friends who tell me, you don't worry, we will take care of your family for you. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
With words like that, isn't the Lord's hand working so strongly? Isn't Our Lady just leading me by her hand, journeying with me? So I have heard of stories of other sisters, brothers who sometimes do face rather challenging reactions from their family. My road has been really smooth all the way. So there's always, of course, that separation anxiety to say goodbye to the family, to kind of move out of the house. But other than that, honestly, it has been non-stop support, non-stop encouragement up till today. So I think all this has helped me to focus in my vocation, focus on my studies now, these 2 years without worry, because nobody has ever said, or have been a wet blanket or throw cold water over you to this. No, it's just been, go, just do it. Don't worry. We pray for you. So I'm very blessed, really very blessed.
Which parish did you grow up in?
So I grew up in Yishun. So my family, my real parish, the beginning parish that has, I think, groomed me to be who I am today is the Church of Our Lady, Star of the Sea. I spent so many years there growing up. Many of them have seen me from a teenager to the day I was ordained, to the 2 over years I was back there helping for the weekend masses. So Star of the Sea has a very special place in my heart, and I know I have many people praying for me, supporting me there. And my mom and my sis, they're still living in Yishun, so they're still part of the parish. So without a doubt, Our Lady, Star of the Sea, Our Lady, still continues to shine in my life. Yeah.
So what did you study before you went to the seminary?
So from NUS, I graduated with a degree in the English language simply because I had a scholarship from MOE to teach English.
Okay.
So I kind of had a job straight after uni because I re-signed a scholarship with the Ministry of Education. So after that 10 years, I was a teacher, 5 years in a public school, 5 years in a Catholic school. So I think in that 10 years, the Lord has given me a lot of opportunity to groom, this public speaking skills, people relationship, because I have to deal both with the youths, with colleagues, with parents, with management, and I think all these are necessary skills and experiences as we, work in the church, as we do our pastoral obligations as well. Yeah. So all this has helped me very much. And I think the English language perhaps also has helped me in a way to break down the homilies and talks in a way that can be shared and transferred to the people, hopefully in the simplest way.
Does having learned English help you to get to the root of learning Spanish?
Yes and no, I suppose. Yes and no. I think the technicality of when I had to learn English, all those functional names like verb forms and nouns and all that will be helpful now because as I learn Spanish, I have to know it because the grammar books use these words, of course, in Spanish, But these technicalities, they have helped me a lot. But overall, I think the English language then was really more to fulfill my obligation to be an English teacher. Although I can tell you right now, I think my English grammar is still not fantastic. Sometimes singular and plural also all over the place. Because at the end of the day, I think our Singlish still connects with the people. So the people just want to know that you want to connect with them. So I try to speak good English, but at the end of the day, it's the relationship and the connection that we have with the people more important.
I think friendship is a very, very important thing
Important.
to come like spirituality.
As a teacher, I still remember, the first day of school, within the first week, the first thing I always attempt to do with all my classes was to build relationship with the children first, with the students. Because once you win them over, once you show that you care, and they can see that you care, the rest of the year is smooth sailing. So even in the church, and I think the people will know whether you're a genuine person or not. And once that authenticity flows out and flows through and people see it, once they see that you are a good person at heart, I think everything becomes smooth sailing later on. Yeah.
So that's part 1 of our episode with Father Emmanuel Noel in Ávila, Spain. Thank you for spending this time with us. If this conversation has touched you, inspired you, or made you smile, help spread the word. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channels, Faith Explorations, where we journey together to discover God in everyday places, and Father Emmanuel Noel, where Father will be sharing reflections, updates, and spiritual nuggets from Ávila. Your support really helps our mission reach more hearts seeking Jesus. Until next time, stay rooted, stay hopeful, and may God lead you deeper into His presence. Amen. Welcome back to our Ávila special. In episode 1, we heard Father Emmanuel's vocation story, the journey that led him from teaching to becoming a friar. But what is his life right now? Today, we step inside CITeS in Ávila, where Father Emmanuel is pursuing his licentiate in spirituality. What does he actually study? Are classes and exams in Spanish difficult? And what does daily life look like as a friar living in the homeland of St Teresa of Avila, the OG? This episode brings you straight into Father's life in Spain. So come, let's go meet Father in Ávila.
Alrighty.
So Father, what's this place?
Okay, so over here, if you're familiar with the story of the foundations of Saint Teresa, when she was a Carmelite nun and she was encouraged by God, to reform the Carmel, to revive the spirituality of our Carmelites, and so just keep the story short anyway, so she pulled out of her original Carmel convent, which is actually not far from here, and we'll be going there in a while, but this will be her first foundation. So there are 2 branches of the Carmelites that we know today, and this, I belong to the Reformed Carmel, or we call it the Discalced Carmelites, and of course the original Carmelites called the Ancient Observants, all right, they're still in existence today. We do have very good relationship with one another, but what makes this place very special on this ground in Ávila is this is her very, very first foundation built by Teresa of Jesus.
Okay, so this land, right, is like the place of St. Teresa.
Exactly.
Like, how does it feel to be studying here?
For me, I think it's a little bit surreal because all this while when I first started to get to know Carmelite spirituality better, we've always read in the books, she moved from place to place, or Teresa of Avila, for example, the word Avila. And now that I'm here, I find it surreal. And the surreal part is that I'm actually touching something from the 16th century, and I mean, in a sense, built by Teresa herself, built by our saints, which is something that it takes a while to sink in, like, oh wow, I'm really here, and this is
the place.
It's not just some book that we are reading in our imagination, but it's real. So that's what makes it very.
In my mind, it's like. You know how you all call her like the Holy Mother?
Yes, because she's our foundress, so we call her our Holy Mother.
So it's a bit like how
Catholics go to Jerusalem for Holy Land pilgrimage.
In a way,
But
in a
yours is
way,
longer.
correct. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So this is like our source, if you like, and suddenly the books, the works that she has written,
Yes,
her
come
experiences, in a way comes alive. Of course, we don't experience the fullness of being a Carmelite nun within the convent itself, but the very fact that, again, that I'm here, that we are here, you can touch, it's
Yeah,
great.
it's real.
Let's have a quick look at the front. This is the
Okay,
back. So
okay.
over here, we have a plaque that says the Monastery of St Joseph, because St Teresa was a great devotee of St Joseph. St Joseph to her was a great patron of protection for the Holy Family, for Mary and for the baby Jesus. And so for her, when she founded the first convent, she entrusted the first convent to St Joseph, knowing that he will be the protector of the sisters, of the nuns of their very first convent. So it's called the Monastery of St Joseph or San Jose. On this note though, many of her convents elsewhere are also dedicated to St. Joseph. So you've got to be very clear is Monastery of St. Joseph in Avila, for example. You've got to be very specific about it. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
Let's
Okay.
go.
So just a quick short walk to the front or the entrance of the convent. We are actually very near town. Where the walls, well, we are near town actually. We are just slightly outside the walls of the castle walls of Avila, which is just over there, and we'll be going there in a short while. Yeah. This is the facade of the Convent of St Joseph, founded by, of course, Teresa of Jesus. Unfortunately, the gift shop is not open because I think it's a Sunday. All right, and of course, these are the gates. We don't go in unless we actually do have a proper appointment with the sisters, so it's not really open to public. But there are mass timings, so if you know the mass timings, you could actually participate in masses with the sisters. So yeah, it's one of the most iconic and historical places, a must-see in Avila. So what is great about Avila as well is that we have her previous convent, which is the Convent of the Incarnation, where she first entered, and then now this convent which she first founded. And they are about 20-minute walk from each other only, all in one place. Yeah, so where I stay, actually, I'm pretty close to all this. Yeah, so it's quite a privilege actually.
So when
to be here.
when you're reading her writings, right, then it's like, if you don't understand, you come in. Come here,
I don't think
reflect
so.
better. This is what she
So
meant.
far, the inspiration hasn't come in yet. But in this few months that I've been living in Spain, part of our course was to visit some of the other foundations that she has built, and a lot. So in the bus, in the journey, we actually read passages of her book of foundations, which she actually narrates her experiences, her difficulties as she moves from place to place to found new convents, and then things just fall into place, and then we try to appreciate the landscape, the kind of difficult roads that she had to traverse in those times. Today we have beautiful roads, but in those days, my gosh, and you can see that the terrain in Spain can be dry, can be very rugged. So for her in the 16th century must have been quite an adventure. She's really a brave and strong woman, so it makes us appreciate the kind of foundation, the kind of all that she has gone through just to follow God's will to open up new convents around the country.
Is the sister staying here?
Yes, of course.
the cloistered, right?
Yes. And in fact, I'm not very sure about the information, but people tell me that there are, for those young ladies who have a call to Carmel, they really want to enter this particular one. So there's like a long waiting list, that kind of thing, because there is a capacity limit. We cannot just accept many.
Why they want this one?
I think because simply
Most cool.
special. It's the first one.
OG.
Exactly the original one. So there's something very special. Now the Incarnation as well has quite a good reputation, and they are having good vocation. So we're very happy for our sisters.
Yay.
Yeah, very good. Alrighty.
Okay.
Thank you. So although we live there, it's my community, but it's also open to public, which means we have about 100 rooms. Because people can come and stay there for retreats. Big groups can come and book the place, for conferences and stay for retreats. So actually where I'm staying, I'm actually staying with people coming in and out all the time. That is why actually you could actually also stay there because we have 100 over rooms. You know, yeah, and
Stay at CITeS.
yeah, CITeS, yeah, and it's very good accommodation. Very good food, so I stay there. So many of the other of my other classmates from all over the world who are in the course with me, they're also staying there. So every day, it's very international. So every day I'm speaking to people from all over the world. Every other day there'll be new people coming in, you know, and of course when they see this face, they know that this is not a Spanish speaker. So they'll all be asking me, oh, where are you from? You know, oh, you speak Spanish, you know, that kind of thing. So actually, yeah, it's a great place. It's like a melting pot of many cultures and countries, and it's a very open public space. Yeah.
So do they go like the first thing they say to you is ni hao?
Oh no, yeah. Although they can have very stereotypical idea of who I am at times, but usually the more polite people will ask, "Oh, where are you from?"
Okay.
But I do get sometimes like, "You're China, is it?" You know, I mean in Spanish, they will say it to me in Spanish. You know, like,
right.
"Oh, are you Vietnamese?" You know, it's like. It'll be like, nah, don't assume I'm not, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but most people are very, very polite. They were like, they will ask in a way like, oh, where are you from?
Yeah.
You know, rather than assume a country from their first question.
Okay.
So actually, from my room to the classroom is just like what 100 steps. I'll show it to you later on so you understand how it is.
Yes.
So actually, it's all in one place. In fact, I don't even need to leave CITeS. Unless I really had to come out to buy things or whatever, I can stay within my community without coming out. Yeah.
And then you'll be cloistered.
Quite, very much so, yeah.
Then can balance lah.
Sure.
One part is like you talk to a lot of people who stay there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of
Another part
chit-chatting during the meal times.
contemplation.
Yeah, a lot of chit-chatting during the meal times. But there's also enough sufficient quiet time for yourself as well. And we got about 3-4 chapels there, which you can, you know, go and find refuge anytime you need. You know.
So when you do mass, it's in what language?
Spanish.
Oh, wow.
Ever since I've been here, it's only Spanish. So I think I've become pretty comfortable in it.
Okay.
Yeah, I easily celebrate a Spanish Mass. The challenge is always the homily, of course. Just like when I do Chinese Mass, you know. It's always the homily. Also, same thing, you know, because the other Mass parts are standard. So after a while, it's repetition, right? After a while, the Eucharistic prayer, you keep saying it, you get good. You just get good in it. You know what I mean? And of course, the other prayers may be a little bit dynamic, but not too difficult. The homily is always the challenging thing. Yeah, but after a while, it's okay. Yeah.
Does doing does celebrating mass in another language help you, I don't know, reflect something new?
Actually, yes.
When I do Chinese mass, I was like, oh, that's so deep.
It could, yeah. And some of the words that we take it for granted because we are so familiar with English, you know, we kind of like
Just
mindlessly,
recite it.
we can respond without even thinking, you know.
Like,
and suddenly
like
when
verbal prayer.
Exactly. Oh yeah. So when I actually now see some of the words that is translated into Spanish, for example, it got me thinking like, hey, you know, I never saw it this way. You see, so some of the words that when it's translated into Spanish actually resonated with me more, or resonates with me more than English, than it was in English. So it got me to appreciate some parts of the Mass a little bit more. I've been actually, compiling some of these phrases or words which resonated in me during the Mass because of the Spanish language to one day do a little bit more, a little longer sharing. Because right now, to be honest, offhand, I can't really think of something that I can explain at length. But I have been compiling some of the things like, hey, wow, you know, suddenly this Spanish word helps me to appreciate this particular part of the Mass better. Yeah. So CITeS is just around the corner. That's where people that we also have. We conduct. Not say we. I mean the center conducts weekend conferences as well. Like for example, this whole weekend could be 3 days of St. Elizabeth of the Trinity or another saint. So people can actually just sign up and come anytime they want. Sometimes they also offer online, so you can actually watch it online if you cannot be here physically present as well. So a few other courses that run concurrently, but the key course that runs will be what I'm taking, which is this Masters in Mysticism, generally human sciences and mystical theology, which is the key course that CITeS offers. Okay, this way. Yeah. So this is the huge poster, and this is what it says here. This is the year of Jubilee for St. John of the Cross, this entire year, and it says this is for 5 years. St. John lived here for 5 years as the chaplain and confessor of this monastery. So they're very proud because, in a sense, these particular walls have been touched by two great saints. Teresa and John of the Cross.
Now relic already.
So this is the year of St. John of the Cross, and it will run all the way until December 2026.
It start this year.
It just started last month. So we are only in the second month. So we got another 10 months to go. So if you go to Segovia and go through the holy doors in the church there by the Carmelite fathers in Segovia, participating in Mass and of course fulfilling the requirements for a plenary indulgence, then yes, you can enjoy a plenary indulgence on this year of Jubilee of St. John of the Cross.
Plenary indulgence very hard to achieve.
It will be challenging because firstly your you need to have that determination to be detached from all sin. However, the partial indulgence is still very much possible. So we should not be discouraged. We just try our very best, and at least we have an intention for the indulgence, partial or otherwise or more. And I think that already helps us in living a good way of life. It's when we actually feel that we can't do it, or it's impossible, and we don't even try. I think that's where, that's where we're never even going to make an effort to live a good and holy life. So we just try our best. So these are little opportunities that Holy Mother Church gives us to challenge ourselves to live spiritually good lives. So even if you are not per se out to obtain an indulgence, full or partial, it should not stop us nonetheless for wanting to live good spiritual lives, as Christians.
When I was reading, it says that St Teresa of Avila was like most likely the closest to be detached from most of the mortal and venial sin.
Oh wow, okay. I
don't know whether...
I really don't know because there are many other great saints out there as well. And I'm very sure that they too strive very hard. Some of them struggled very much. Even like St Augustine, who was the one who truly turned Teresa's life around because she was reading his confessions. You see, and we know the story of St. Augustine. Well, he had a rather tumultuous first part of his life, but he turned around. So at the end of the day, God works in mysterious ways as long as we participate in God's graces. So as long as we don't want to participate, then the graces can be falling down on us all the time and we are unaware or rejecting them. So that green building over there is CITeS.
His home.
It's home, correct.
Yes.
So by right, from the walls just now, we could easily have seen this because it stands out. But today it's so foggy, it's impossible to see.
Camera is not really capturing.
So inside this place is where St Teresa levitates.
Over here, yes. In the incarnation. Okay, I'm not sure. I had to get my facts right, so I'm not very sure about this one. I'm not sure whether her levitation was before or after her reform. But if I'm not wrong, after her reform, definitely also have. But whether there was before her reform or not. But after the reform, yes. But here in before the reform, which means she was still here, she had lots also of mystical visions of our Lord, encouraging her and strengthening her in that resolve to say, go ahead to reform the Carmel. And so it's so close to home. I mean, I can't imagine that I'm just like, and I know after a few months, you can also kind of take things for granted. It's like, because it's become your environment that you don't even think too much about it. Yeah. So you can see we got a lot of walking paths. So now it's winter, so you don't see many people out because simply it's cold. But during the summer, for example, the people love the sun. And they would love to come out for walks. And during the summer, in the height of summer, the sun only sets about 10:30 p.m. So so people will be out for a walk even at 10 p.m. because the sun is still shining.
Wow.
Yeah, and about 5-ish, the sun will rise up again because that's summer. So like winter now, it will start to set by 6 p.m. Yeah, and the sun only rises up about 8:30 a.m. Which is still not so drastic, Some of those countries way up in the north, they practically don't get much sunshine during the winter.
Yeah.
And then the summer, the sun is practically up there 24 hours, So
then when you're doing the lots, then they talk about the daylight. When is it coming?
correct. So actually, it's not so drastic here. It's just a little bit later than usual, but it's still acceptable.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're living here, the transition is so slow, you don't realize it.
This place is very detached from the rest of the place.
Very quiet also.
It's very quiet. It's very, very quiet. It's true. Yeah. Hola, buenas. Buenos dias. So I can really go for my walks. So that's one thing I will really miss about Spain is the spaciousness, that of course, actually if we visit many countries, we will realize that, there's always more space than our little tiny Singapore. So I think while I'm here, I'm just going to enjoy the fact that it's not so crowded, there's always enough space, But I think I'm ready to go back nonetheless after 2 years. Yeah, at the end of the day, Singapore is still home. And I really say it, in all truthfulness, So I will just enjoy my 2 years here, but I'll be ready to go home. Okay, welcome everybody to CITeS. This is exactly where I stay since I've reached here in June, and lots of my little videos and Rain in Spain episodes were all made around here. Like my Happy New Year messages were all around that corner. For example, when the first snowfall was here. This is home. So this whole stretch here are all classrooms, smaller classrooms, and all the classrooms have names, right? Our classroom is here, so all our classes from the day we started school until I end my first year, every class will be here. So actually, the rest are all rooms. They're all rooms. So just say if you are going to stay here, you get one of these rooms. So I just walk on. So every day I just walk from my room, I come to class. It's so easy, I don't have to get out of the building, so to speak. Okay, come. We can come in and you can perhaps come in.
Okay, so Father, what's this place?
So where we are now, it's my official classroom. So since we started our course proper from day one, this is the designated classroom that we are in. It's not a very huge classroom because we don't have that many participants for this course, and participants come from all over the world. So at this stage, we have about 20 odd people. The numbers change a little bit though, because we have 3 semesters in a year, but the participants have a flexibility. If they don't want to do the full 1-year course, they can actually come just say for one particular SEM, because every SEM has its particular courses or subjects to be covered, so based on your interest. So anyway, this is where I study every day, and this is exactly where I sit. Not that I'm assigned this seat, but from day one, I you just take a fancy to this place, and I've just been sitting here ever since.
Okay, so how did this opportunity to study in Avila come about?
Actually, before I was ordained, in 2020, my superiors already had some intention for me to pursue the studies in spirituality. But of course, when COVID suddenly came upon us, unexpectedly, there was a lot of question marks, so the whole idea was shelved. Then after a while, somehow nobody talked about it anymore. So I also thought that, 2021 came, 2022 came, 2023 came, and I was telling myself, okay, it's all right, And then somehow in 2024, my provincial approached me and say, hey, so how, are you ready to go? And I was like, what, suddenly. So at that time I was already 44. Initially I was a little bit hesitant because I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not young anymore. 2 years of a master program is not something that is a light program, it's pretty, it can be demanding and challenging, furthermore in a foreign language. But after praying about it, with the support of my family, with the encouragement of my Carmelite friars and community, and of course, so many of our parishioners, I've come to accept that it is a privilege, it's a grace that the Lord wants me to take up, And I know many people will be very excited to take this opportunity if it had been given to them. So I felt that I should be grateful that I was considered to come for these studies. So in a nutshell, it was kind of unexpected after 4 years of non-talking about it, but I'm glad for this opportunity, very much.
Okay. So how is doing your classes and doing your exams in another language?
Oh my gosh, no joke. So I started the Spanish language while in Singapore. Okay. Yeah, so I signed up in a Spanish school, and I had regular classes, and then after I kind of finished a certain stage, and because of the question mark of COVID and everything, so eventually it stopped. I also felt that, okay, there's no point continually paying money for the language class. So anyway, I stopped, and for about 2 years, I had no formal language continuing with the Spanish language until my provincial suddenly popped the question again to me. So anyway, with that very weak basic that I had and almost lost for 2 years, so I came here in June in order to have at least 3 months of intense Spanish language to prepare for the course. So I came in June, the whole summer I was here. 3 months, not enough. Still not enough, I think it kind of gave me a little bit of help for simple conversations on the streets with casual observations, conversations, but oh my gosh, the first couple of weeks in class was to me a great shock in terms of language ability, because the technical language that is being used, the jargons, and of course at the university level, somehow I realized that, wow, how come all this grammatical structure I've never heard in my life, what is all these words that does, and then we also have lecturers who are, Spanish speakers, but they may come from other parts of the world, and they may use certain vocabulary more unique to their own particular culture. So all these were many factors that were very challenging for me at the start. So I must say, the first month, I was kind of depressed a little bit, because there were so many times I walked out of this classroom and I said, I don't know what was going on.
I was thinking, because St Teresa of Avila, she always wanted to be a missionary. But then I don't know whether she considered this language thing. Yeah,
that's a good point, because if we think that our mission would be in a language that we are comfortable and familiar with, it might be much easier, for sure, right? But if the language really entails learning something totally brand new, that's a great challenge. And on this note, we have great respect for our missionaries. In the early years of Singapore, our French missionaries, for example, they came in and they learned Chinese, Teochew, some of them even picked up Tamil, they are really missionary at heart. So if these people had the heart and the grace of God to do it, so I tell myself, with everybody's encouragement, I just have to soldier on,
So, what does this program that you're doing focus on?
So this particular 1 year here in CITeS, the course is on mysticism. Now it sounds very big, right? Yeah, but it's exactly what it is. You know, understanding mysticism through the lens of Carmelite spirituality, through the lens of our Carmelite saints who have experienced these mystical experiences.
Right.
You know, because mysticism, as you can see, you know, it brings a bit of a reaction like, whoa, what's that about, you know? Already before I left Singapore and people asked me, what are you going to study? At first I said, oh, I'm going to do a master's in spirituality. Just that word spirituality, people are like,
What's that?
yeah, what do you really mean, right? And it's true because like, how do you even define spirituality? And here I am taking a master's in mysticism.
So you can tell people that
I know, right?
Learn how to levitate.
Well, clearly I haven't reached there yet as well, yeah? So anyway, in this course, it's broken up into 3 semesters.
Okay.
So the first semester will bring you into the introduction to, for example, what is mysticism?
Okay.
So we kind of like...
Defined it.
Yeah, well, it's very hard to define clearly, but we talk about it, we discuss about it, you know, what is our understanding of mysticism, and as the course proceeds on, we will see how mysticism, for example, is understood also in other religions, such as in Judaism, even in Islam, because they also have mystical experiences, for example, the spirituality of the different religion. We also see how spirituality and mysticism, the understanding, the theology behind it, and even the experiences, how they have changed or evolved, say, from the early centuries of the Church Fathers to the Middle Ages, to modern understanding as well. So part of the course is to see this transition in the development of thought of what mysticism is.
Okay.
The psychology about it, you know, also, for example, oh, you said you had a mystical experience. Are you psycho or not? You know, so there's this psychology behind it, you know. Is this real? Is this really a spiritual experience, or is this all in your head? So we have experts who come in and they share, you know, trying to break down or make us understand how then do we, I won't call it define, but how at least do we recognize what is mysticism, spirituality, and psychopath, for example, you know. Yeah, so the first semester, which I have just gone through, we are touching at all this, so it's very diverse.
Yes.
And it can be very
overwhelming.
very intimidating.
Yes.
With the time of terminology. For example, you know, when we were seminarians, when I was a seminarian, and we learned about philosophical thought, learning it in English was already difficult. Some of our philosophers, the way they wrote the English or translated the English, we struggle. So now I'm dealing it in a language that is
Foreign.
so foreign. Yeah. So it was very, very difficult. And you know, but thank goodness to certain tools that we have in the internet to help to break down concepts for us to, you know, so I'm getting by. In the second semester, which will be beginning soon, the focus will be on St Teresa of Jesus. So it's a full semester just on Teresa. So we really go deep into her life, her works, including the historical context of her life during the time. What is Spain like during the 16th century, the kind of political scene, the literature, etc. Okay. So we can better understand why she wrote the way she wrote, for example. Then in the third semester, we will have a full semester of St. John of the Cross. So as you can see, it's actually a very intense 1 year because it's 3 semesters in 9 months, to be honest, because 3 months of summer break. So you have 9 months of intense study, which makes the course also rather flexible for anybody who, for example, just wishes to focus, say, only on St. John of the Cross. They just come for 1 semester.
Right.
Or vice versa, or for the rest, you know, if you get what I mean. So basically, that's the first year here in CITeS.
How was your experience doing your first exam in Spanish?
Oh, actually, we don't have an exam per se because everything here is by written assignment. Okay. So you are given like a research topic, so that you can actually also choose, because sometimes there are certain areas which you may have a greater affinity for. So we actually have some options to choose what resonates with us better, and then you do your research. So you have to actually write research paper. However, you will need to, in a way, I won't call it defend your paper, but there could be interviews to ensure that you don't just use ChatGPT or AI to write everything up, because if you do that, chances are you don't know what's going on. But if you really had done your research, you had given thought, you will be able to explain your paper, for example.
So what was your paper on?
So I had 7 assignments, by the way. Yeah, 7 assignments. So
Which one was the most exciting to you?
Oh, well, one of the most difficult ones for me, I would say, was this topic on secular wisdom and mystical wisdom. So there's a lot of one thing about getting knowledge, because people feel that they want to know more about mysticism. And the word wisdom itself is loaded, because there could be secular wisdom, very philosophical, but there's also divine wisdom, which we get from knowledge that we get directly from God. For example, even in the Bible, we have the book of wisdom, the book of Proverbs. They are wisdom, but they are divine wisdom because they are from God. So one of the topics was, how do we tell the difference? Not say we will tell that we can tell the difference, but how do we
Blend it.
Thousands of tears later.
blend it or marry it? That's where it's difficult, because what the lecturer was saying, that there are many people who want the truth, but the kind of truth that they are out to find, or the kind of truth that they attain, could very well be very secular, and knowledge that brings them worldly dominion and power, but not love, but not understanding and charity. Because the true wisdom, the true knowledge that comes from God is not one that dominates, but one that loves. You see? So anyway, that's one of the topics, for example. We could actually choose a few, but I decided to choose that topic, and I used Saint Edith Stein, Saint Benedict, Saint Teresa Benedicta of the Cross, because for me she embodied the exact idea of secular truth that led to divine truth. She started off as a philosopher of phenomenology, so she started off wanting to know secular wisdom. I want to know what is this philosophical thought, empathy, for example, which is very, very secular. But after her encounter with the book of Teresa of Jesus, and her encounter with Jesus Christ himself, with her mystical experiences, she has transformed her life using her philosophical, secular wisdom. She has now brought it into Carmelite spirituality, into church wisdom, that kind of thing. So she, to me, was a perfect transition of
Applying both.
But to write it in Spanish wasn't easy. And of course, Edith Stein was German, so all her works were in German, and after that they were all mainly translated here in the library into Spanish. So it was still a challenge understanding her works and writing my thoughts on it. So that was one of my biggest projects, because that one was particularly long. It was almost 20 pages requirement for a written assignment. But with God's grace,
Yes.
I was very happy with it. Not graded yet, so I don't know how I do. So I don't know. But personally, I'm happy with it. Yeah.
Okay, so Father, when you're stressed in studying, right, what do you do?
Well, when I'm really, really tired and I really need a break and I need to let it all out, come, let me show you.
lesson learned today, don't offend Father Emmanuel.
These episodes you saw the student, but in the next episode you'll meet the guide. In episode 3, Father Emmanuel brings us deeper into the Carmelite spirituality itself. He becomes our tour guide around Avila, walking us through the life and fire of Saint Teresa of Avila and St John of Cross. Episode 3 is where history, theology and personal mission collide. So don't miss it and join us in this pilgrimage. Like, share and subscribe to be notified when the next episode drops. See you there!
Hazy love, lazy luxury.
Welcome back to our Avila special. Today, we're walking right into Carmelite spirituality. We're standing before the monastery of the Incarnation in Avila, the very monastery where St Teresa of Avila lived for nearly 30 years before beginning the Carmelite reform. And today, Father Emmanuel becomes our tour guide and spiritual guide, helping us to understand not just the history of this place, but the heart of Carmelite spirituality. Come, let's pilgrim together.
So this is the Convent of the Incarnation. This is where Teresa was when she first joined religious life as a Carmelite. So she stayed here. And the beautiful and interesting fact about this place was when this place was built and inaugurated, the day of the inauguration of this Convent of the Incarnation was the same day that Teresa was born.
Upon closer examination by Father Emmanuel, the day of the inauguration of the Convent of the Incarnation coincided with the date of her baptism, not the day that she was born.
So who was to know that this little baby girl born
Oopsie, baptized on the day, not birthday,
on the day of this inauguration of the convent would one day be a sister in this convent and later be our great reformer of the Carmelites.
Yeah.
And remember that her first foundation is El Convento de San Jose in the outside the walls of the castle. So we have a great big statue of Teresa of Jesus here in honor of her. And today, many young women, girls who feel a call to Carmel, have a real attraction and hope to join this particular convent as well for its significance of being Teresa, one of Teresa's, rather the convent that Teresa joined when she was young. So I'm glad to see that the door is open. We can go in and have a look at the church because this holds masses every day as well and it's open to the public. But of course during the siesta time it's not always open. Yeah.
I wonder what the sisters thought when she reformed.
Oh yeah, you can. There are a couple of videos on it, movies on it. Of course, there was a lot of objection, and some people were like wondering, like, "Wow, who do you think you are? You know, reforming the Carmel." So she went through a lot of challenges as well. Come, let's go in and
As
have a
we've
look.
all changed.
So the sisters' cloister is here. So yeah, I think they can also participate in mass up here. Hola, buenas, buenas.
Two very boring minutes later.
So during mass, the sisters will be here and they will participate from the grills.
Now it feels like small town living.
It is a small town, so it's very quiet, to be very honest.
So what do you miss about Singapore?
What do I miss about Singapore? Well, I think firstly I do miss my own family for sure, and I do miss the interaction with our parishioners, you know, in all the churches, you know, where I can interact easily without hindrance of language.
Yes.
You know, over here, I mean, the people are very friendly, but there's always a bit of a difficulty in my ability to express myself well. So I think I miss that because, you know, after Mass, we can actually have a look here. After Mass as well, after our Masses in Singapore, you know, the people are always around they stick around, they chit-chat us, you know, and I kind of miss that. So over here, after Masses, it can just become very quiet very quickly. And yeah, I think that's one thing I really miss about the church in Singapore. It could be, yep. This is 1, 2, yeah. Las Moradas, correct. The word Moradas means rooms, you know, our castle. Las Moradas.
Yeah.
Because her book is the interior castle. She talks about each room as a morada. So there's 7 over here. So if I'm not wrong, there is a little bookshop over here as well, but very quiet bookshop. It's a museum, but you gotta, of course, pay to see. Yeah. But up there is like a little bookshop, and but here there's a little bit of a place where they give you a rough idea of their convent inside. You know? So these are how it was like in the past when they have a little audience with the sisters and the turnstile now. Now I think it's a little bit different, but they just show you how it was like, I suppose, in the past.
So,
oh, for sure, yeah, on the other side. And it's usually double grill. That was the traditional way, you know. So it was really like double protection, so to speak, from to be away from the world, so that they can pray and contemplate in the realm of God. Yeah, so it's always double layered. In fact, many of the Carmels, even in Asia, are double grilled.
what do they use the turnstile for?
If you need to pass something to them, or they want to pass something to you. Yeah, so for example, donations, prayer cards, food even sometimes, or they make little cookies or whatever, it goes through there. When we were in some other convents, when we visited them, the nuns, they handmade crucifixes to give as gifts. So they put it in the turnstile, they turn it around, and you can collect it. Because you see, it's not possible to pass anything to them through the grills because it's so far away. Yeah. So the turnstile is the only way that we can pass things through. Yeah. And they always have very specific hours to visit them, so that you cannot just come in anytime and ring the bell. They actually have timing because they have prayer time, they have rest time, they have manual labor as well. So visitors have to adhere respectfully to the hours for visiting the sisters.
Like hospital visiting.
Not really hospital, but yeah. Compilation.
So if they were to speak with their parents,
yeah, they need permission as well. They cannot just speak to anybody. Yeah, so even if the parents want to visit them, the parents, they must come and must get permission from their superior as well. Yeah. So this is like a little bookshop, and they have some books and some postcards. I mean, for people as souvenirs as well. Yeah. And if you want a museum, you got to pay for the entrance fee. There's a little tour inside, but it's not expensive. Yeah, it's quite okay. Hola, buenas.
¿Queréis pasar al museo?
No, gracias. Solo echamos un vistazo. Gracias.
I'm sure if the museum visit includes a prayer from the sister, then suddenly everybody.
That's our Asian mentality, but it may not be for others. You know, sometimes they have very different mentalities. Yeah.
As we leave the monastery of the Incarnation, we're reminded that this was an ordinary place where God did something extraordinary in the life of Saint. Before we end, we want to give a special shout out to our YouTube members Mary Hall 5076 and Agnes Tong 1274. Thank you for supporting the channel and helping us continue sharing the stories of faith. In our next episode, we're going to find out Father's rather long religious name. Why did he choose that? And we'll also ask him about his thoughts of St Teresa and St John of the Cross, two saints who continue to shape the Carmelite order and his own spiritual life. Join us in part 4 and learn together. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you in the next episode. Welcome back to our Avila special. Today we're going to hear from Father Emmanuel about two of the greatest Carmelite saints, St Teresa of Avila and St John of the Cross. What made their spirituality so powerful, and why do their teachings still matter today? We'll also dive into something more personal, Father Emmanuel's religious name and the meaning behind it. Let's begin.
So I'm not sure how familiar you are with Spanish history, but before Spain became a full Spain country, they were actually fragments of kingdoms.
Okay.
So for example, Catalan was the kingdom of Catalan.
Okay.
You know, Avila was the kingdom of Avila. Then we have the kingdom of Navarra. We have a few kingdoms, you know. So every kingdom had their own castle.
Okay.
That's the reason why you see so many castles in Spain.
Okay.
So eventually Spain became a unified country in the 16th century under the rule, I can't remember the king's name, I think it's Carlos or something like that, where all the kingdoms were unified as today's Spain. But of course, even though this unification has been done and Spain is one country, in reality there are some fragments of Spain still hoping to get back their own independence, like Catalan in Barcelona. Actually, if they have their way, they would want to break away from Spain and be an independent place. That's why
That makes a lot of sense.
that's why they keep their Catalan language, because they're so proud of it, because their heritage, once upon a time, they were a kingdom of their own. They were not part of Spain, Spain per se, if you understand what I mean. So that's why Catalan is so special to them, that if it's possible, I want to speak Catalan and not Spanish, because that is their heritage. If you go to San Sebastian in the Basque part, in the northern part of Spain, there's another one that they're very proud of their Euskera language, which is once upon a time they were their own kingdom, but now part of unified Spain. So they have been in a way fighting for independence, but not in that violent way. But of course, if they can have it their way, they will one day hope to be, you know, like we are not. I mean, we are our own kingdom, so to speak. So you're now in the castle walls, of course. It has been, transformed into a shopping area, obviously. And people stay here, and lots of shops and everything,
So the first stage of the interior castle is to detach from earthly things, like shopping.
I know, right? Yeah, I don't know how much attracted you are to the shopping here, but I would say that the prices are I mean, it's not really crazy, you know. If you come to Europe, you have a certain budget in your head, and I would say that I think that Avila is not one place that is overly priced. Yeah, it's actually
not
pretty. Not that bad. It's not that bad, you know. So at least they don't anyhow quote you, you know, and the prices are very clearly stated, so you're never tricked to thinking like you're paying more. And the people are very friendly. So what I like about here truly is that they're actually very pleased or delighted when I'm trying to speak Spanish. They don't look down on you, you know. It's like they encourage you. It's like, oh yeah. So they're actually very encouraging, which helps me, you see. So even though I'm very stressed sometimes to speak and I don't understand, but they are really very patient, and they're happy that you're trying. So
but you don't look stressed, you just look like it's speaking.
Yeah, but honestly sometimes I don't understand also. I still don't fully understand everything, but better than before. Yeah.
At least can order food easily.
Yes and no, also depending. Sometimes,
Just order the same food.
sometimes I just do
Yeah.
that. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So these are just the little streets inside the castle walls. Lots of shopping. There's another supermarket coming on here.
Is there like a physical castle here or they already tear it down?
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think there'll be a physical. Not that I know of. So the cathedral is here, nearby. Oh, hola, guapo.
I don't know.
Oh, Jose! This is my Spanish teacher.
Oh, hello.
Jose, mis amigos de Singapur.
Hello.
Ya,
Hola.
vendrán para visitarme y grabar para los podcasts. Ya. ¿Has visto?
No, no he visto nada.
¿Por qué no?
He tenido tiempo.
Hola everyone, this is, are you recording?
Yes.
Yes.
This is my Spanish teacher, Jose. So he's been teaching me since June, and we are still having classes. In fact, I have class with him tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Bueno, ¿qué? ¿Todo bien?
Todo bien, gracias.
Mañana Reyes.
Manera, sí, sigamos aprendiendo, sí, a las 10, como siempre.
Doesn't look like.
Ya, claro, así, sí.
Porque todavía no se ha visto eso.
Pero.
Hola,
Yeah.
pero, ¿cómo?
Yeah.
Sí.
Look like Saint Dominic.
Yeah.
Tiene mucho miedo.
Bueno, toma.
Encantado.
Domingo.
Chao.
Muchas gracias, que tengas un buen día, ya.
Adiós.
Vale, nos vemos mañana, ya. What a coincidence. He's a real cool chap.
I don't think so.
He just bumped into me because he stays around the corner, I think.
Yeah.
So he didn't. No, I didn't tell him I was coming here. He's a great guy, Jose Joseph. Okay. Now this is a little gem. This is a little gem which I love. So every time I walk past, I will go in. And maybe I'll let you know why we go in. So let's come in together. It's one of the few little chapels that is always open during the day.
Wow.
Always open during the day. And there's a beautiful gem inside which always gives me comfort. Come.
Wow. Okay. You hype up.
Because there's secret entrance. Secret entrance.
Oh, it's open.
Yeah, it's open.
So beautiful, eh?
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
Isn't it beautiful? And so many people do not know the existence
Yeah.
of this beautiful chapel with the Sanctissima.
Okay, the exposition caught us by surprise.
Yes, that's why I say it's a beautiful gem because many people just walk past and it does look closed.
Yeah.
So unless you live here or you really have esoteric knowledge, esoteric knowledge, you won't actually come by. So
John Paul II.
I kind of popped by without realizing one day, and then I realized it's always open, and the whole day there's an exposition going on. So they have timings, but really it goes on until quite late at night sometimes. Look at that, up to 10, 11 p.m. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So it's so beautiful, and there's always one or two people at least inside over there, which gives me a lot of comfort that the local people here are still coming in to spend time with the Lord. And you see, there's also a priest there. You can hear confession,
yeah.
which is very hard sometimes to find.
Oh,
It's beautiful. It's lovely.
Not just to take care of the host.
Yeah, I thought.
So no, he's not always there. So but I think they have also
Rotation.
someone rotation. There's always somebody inside, but it's amazing.
He was like, his eyes was telling me, no recording. Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. But I didn't know. I just opened the doors. Oh my
Correct,
God.
because I didn't. Yeah, I wanted you to have that lovely surprise also.
Yeah.
It was a surprise.
It's a nice comfort for me, especially the days when I'm just so stressed. And just to come here for a little quiet time, to me it's amazing. Yeah. Especially when you're far away from home, suddenly all the churches and all the Blessed Sacraments it resonates even stronger, because when we are back home in Singapore, we take it for granted sometimes, like, there's always that adoration room.
Yeah, 24 hours.
You're so used to it, but when you actually leave your country and you go to a foreign place, suddenly,
Jesus is still with you.
Yeah, and to find him available in another foreign country, for example, it's an amazing feel. So whenever I can bring someone pass by to go in, I will. And they always have a lovely, wonderful experience, even if it's just a few minutes,
Yes. Wow.
Really hidden gem.
Hidden gem, isn't it? Yeah.
As we are in the walls of Avila.
Yes, we are in the walls of Avila right
Let's
now.
talk about Carmelite life, okay?
Sure.
So people often imagine Carmelites as cloistered and silent and quiet. What does everyday life look like for you as a Carmelite friar?
Well, actually, if you have watched any of our other videos, you will see that for the friars, okay, well, I think one thing that we need to establish from the start is that the female Carmelites, our nuns, their way of life would be very much different from the way of life of the friars.
Yes.
So we as friars are not cloistered, which means that we are not confined to our convent. In fact, part of our vocation is to administer the sacraments pastorally, and so we do go out, for example, celebrating masses, hearing confessions, anointing the sick, and all that. But aside from that, really the core of our life is to still be true to our prayer. Our daily prayers and meditation. So, a life of a friar, we must always start the day with morning prayer, Lauds, and Holy Mass. There is no two way about it.
Okay.
Right? Of course, maybe Mass may not be in the morning if you have other obligations, but you have to do your Mass sometime of the day. But Lauds in the morning. Then we have quiet meditation. Typically, we have the morning Mass if it's possible. Okay. And then during the day, of course, if you're a student friar, you go to school, to seminary and study. If you're a priest, maybe you have your other pastoral responsibilities. And of course, sometimes you could be called for, hospital staff and all that. And in the evening, you should have your Vespers and quiet time again. Well, of course, while I'm here in Spain, because I'm now back to wearing the student cap.
Yeah. Nice.
So
just a student.
Yeah, so I'm actually not obligated to carry out any pastoral work while I'm here, although I do support our Carmelite missionary sisters for masses every now and then, so there's a roster. So I do help them for masses. But other than that, my key responsibility right now is to study, and to study well, so that at the end of my studies, I can bring back the knowledge, the spirituality to serve our people back in Singapore again. Yeah.
Do you think that people have this misconception because in Singapore the Carmelite nuns are like very famous?
Well, actually, all the Carmelite nuns are very famous in the world. They are more famous than the friars. To be true, yes. So I don't know what you mean by misconception, but in terms of the holiness of our sisters, there's no doubt about it, because the reforming of the Carmelite order started from the sisters first, St Teresa. So their sanctity, their holiness has always been our focal point of spirituality for Carmel. So they are the nuns, the very fact that they are leaving behind the walls and grills of Carmel gives them a very special meaning to their vocation that kind of captures the people's attention and even curiosity, if you like, you see. So, but we as friars as well, we have our responsibility to live the life that Teresa herself also reformed. Just that we need to balance it well together with pastoral work, as well as living a prayerful, contemplative Carmelite way of life. Yeah?
Is that St John of the Cross?
Yes, so we are firstly at St John of the Cross. If you are familiar with my website, you will see that my main picture is taken with him. So this is the actual statue, the block, yeah, my block, yeah. So that's where we are, St John of the Cross. And later on, when we walk down this little street, we will reach the Basilica of St Teresa, which is just like a few hundred meters away, you know. Yeah, so here we are, Holy Father, St. John of the Cross. Now, St. John of the Cross actually was here for 5 years, serving the nuns as a confessor, as like a spiritual counselor in the Convent of the Incarnation. In fact, this year we've just started, not this year, rather last month in December, on his feast day, we just started a 1 whole year of Jubilee for St. John of the Cross. Because this year we celebrate 300 years of his canonization, and at the same time we also celebrate 100 years of his being proclaimed as Doctor of the Church.
Wow.
So for 1 full year, if you visit his parish in Segovia, where he is buried right now, it's a holy door. So there's a church in Segovia, you get your plenary indulgence. So for this 1 year. But nonetheless, Avila is still a very important place for him because he served as a chaplain, a confessor to the sisters for 5 years. Later on, we'll see a big poster in the Convent of Incarnation proudly proclaiming this fact that, hey, Holy Father lived with us for 5 good years, you know? Yeah.
So now that we're in this statue, which is your favourite Carmelite saint?
Actually, you know,
hard to choose,
no, not really. Actually,
easy to choose.
Not say easy to choose, but when I first started learning and understanding the Carmelite spirituality, to be very honest, I was not so good in it in my years of discernment, you know. But when I started being a Carmelite friar and we had to read the works and the books of our holy parents, St. John of the Cross was more attractive to me at the beginning, simply because I liked his way of explanation. He was very systematic, he was very meticulous, he was very orderly, you know, like point 1, point 2, point 1, point 2, point 3, point 2, point 3, point 4, you know. So for me, my brain works that way. Yeah. So when I read his works, it was like, wow, so orderly, you know. Not that St. Teresa wasn't orderly, but St. Teresa was more spontaneous in the way she wrote. So when I first encountered her works, my initial reaction was like, oh, she's so random, you know, because suddenly she could just go off tangent, you know, and then she would like be praising God and saying something really spontaneous. And for me, when the mind is, too structured, I found it a little bit disconcerting at the beginning. So I kind of like, wow, I prefer St. John of the Cross.
Okay.
But as time went by and I started to, go through their works a second time, because we never read just once, you know, you got to kind of like go it one more time round again. Over time, I kind of fell in love with Teresa of Jesus more. So today, if you ask me, I prefer her simply because I've learned to appreciate and enjoy her sense of hidden humor, because actually she has little gems of poking at people sometimes, you know, like, you know, not say making fun, but, you know, making little comments like say, oh, you know, well, what to do, this kind of thing happened, you know, because, you know, and so if you're able to pick up her little humor here and there, actually I found her so, her spontaneity now has rubbed out on me, which initially didn't, you know. And then now I find St. John of the Cross too rigid.
Maybe the MBTI different.
I don't know. So, but today I think St. Teresa of Jesus, here we are at her Basilica, has rubbed out on me very much. And one of the key reasons why I say she has rubbed out on me is because she was the one who inspired me for my religious name. Because I'm not sure if you're familiar, all our friars and our sisters, we have a religious name like sister something of the, you know, at the back, and then long. Father or brother something or thing at the back. So when I read her book, A Book of Life, she was very high on the importance of the humanity and divinity of Christ. She saw the corporeal body of Jesus as important as his divine nature. Of course, that's a fact, but you know, sometimes we lose we lose track of that important two persons nature of Jesus. We tend to either focus too much on his humanity or we focus too much on the divinity. That the balance was not there. But for her, she saw the equal importance so much that it struck me through her works.
Right.
And so it's because of her that I have chosen my religious name as the humanity and divinity of Christ. So today I credit Holy Mother Teresa as well for a lot of her spirituality, for her spontaneity, for being so human actually in the way she thinks and writes, yet so divine in her encounter with Christ. Yeah. So here we are at her basilica. It is also her birthplace. So I think it's open right now. I hope maybe we can still go. We have time to go in and have a look. Yeah,
Okay.
come. So this is her birthplace, or at least it's a real room. Well, no, it's like an exhibition now to kind of show where she was born. But of course, sources say as well that this is not exactly the place, but it's as best as it can get, that this is where she was born. So of course today they have built a basilica over where she was born, in honor of her birth, and a little kind of exhibition, if you call it, to see her place.
Was her family wealthy?
No, actually, they were not poor, but they were not fantastically well off as well. Yeah. Yeah. You can have a look. Yes.
You are low light.
I don't think so. All replicas, yeah. I'm sure it's not. Yeah.
So probably all should be in the Vatican archive like this.
Probably. Because based on the locals, they say this is not also the exact location, but it's as close as you can get. So I don't know.
It's just to help you to visualize.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Like artist's impression of
Correct.
the HDB.
Correct. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So it's very beautiful. This is so typical of the kind of 16th century architecture. That is very gold. That's why they call it the Spanish Golden Age, because it's a lot of gold everywhere. Yeah.
St. John Paul II was here.
Yes, he came here, I think, to inaugurate or open up this place. Because this basilica, of course, it's much later built in honor of her. Yeah, this was used to where her house used to be, not a church, not a basilica. But today, of course, it's built in honor of her, since this is her birthplace. Yeah.
She got so fat, man.
Yeah, some of the statues so sad. Yeah, the photos that she has taken. She wrote actually. She said that this friar who painted her, and she was so upset because she said that, "Oh no, you made me look so ugly." Said, "May the Lord forgive you for that." That's why I say she got some sense of humor. Now over there is a little garden where they believe that was where she grew up and played with her brother Rodrigo. Come, we can have a look over there. So that's her brother Rodrigo, older brother Rodrigo. So they believe that they played here in the garden, because again this was meant to be their house, Yeah, so they played here when they were young. So the famous story, of course, was the two of them. They were so inspired by martyrdom and Christianity that they both wanted to go to the land of the Muslims to be martyred. At the age of 7, they kind of young age, But then on the way, when they were going out, they met their uncle who asked them, "Where are you going?" And he told them, "Oh, we're going to be martyrs." And so the uncle said, "Come, let me bring you there." But of course, the uncle brought them home. So that's the famous story. And it's, we actually have the exact location called the Four Posts, which is not too far from here as well, where the uncle met them while they were going out and brought them back. So that place, the Four Posts, it's one of the also maybe today is a tourist place as well, but it's a historical site of one of her key memories, which she wrote in her book, of life, how she was so fired with zeal to die for the Lord, with her brother Rodrigo. These are her actual. I mean, of course, replica. But this is the way she wrote. And part of my course is to, in a way, I won't say we don't really have to decipher, but we need to be familiar with the kind of letterings she used. So you can see that she wrote almost without punctuation mark. She just writes non-stop. So scholars have to really decipher, where
the sentence starts and
and
ends.
I mean, if you're not a native speaker, how are you ever going to understand? Because this is 16th century Spanish as well, with no punctuation mark. She wrote as she thought, so there was no worry about grammar or redaction, the kind of thing. So it's amazing. But that's how it is. So that's her name, Teresa of Jesus. So we have to understand that this is a letter J. This is how J it looks like for her. Okay. And this letter S and all that. So these are some of the challenges I'm facing in school.
Really cannot tell a lot of
It's very hard. It's not easy at all. Yeah, it's not easy at all. Yeah, but here and there I can pick up some words, like adonde.
Then after that, when you have one blank patch, must guess what is it?
I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. Okay, so unfortunately Mass is on, so we can't take more pictures. But that's her basilica. At least you've been here, because some people come and they can't come in.
No, we know.
Yeah.
We experience.
Yeah. Okay, come, let's go. Gracias, cuídate. So there's also a museum, but of course chargeable. Now there's a little gift shop. I mean, for example, if you want to have a look for little knickknacks and all that. What time do we have? Oh, we're still in good time. It's a slight drizzle. So there's the poster for the year of Jubilee for St. John of the Cross. Año Jubilar San Juanista.
Is that an AI-generated St. John of the Cross?
For sure. Actually, you're right. I was still thinking, who did they get to post? But you're right. I think it is AI after all. It didn't occur to me that it's slightly AI. So this is like a little bookshop, gift shop. If you are interested to get anything, for example. Some of her reliquaries are there, like her staff, her sandals, certain things. You can actually go and have a look. It's free. Come in. Yeah. Hola, buenos días. Hola. So for example, this is her sole, her walking stick that she used, her actual walking stick.
Oh, this is real.
This is real. All these are real. So all over here are the real reliquaries, and one of her soles of the sandals that she used in her walking. Can you imagine that? So it's
How is so small?
yeah. Oh, I suppose yeah. Of course, she had a few sticks. This is one of the sticks, not the only
One and
stick.
only.
Yeah, the only stick. Yeah. So it's very good because they have it in English. So actually, it's kind of helpful for visitors, English-speaking visitors, for
Towards
example.
the end of her life, she couldn't walk well.
Well, I suppose, yeah. Actually, Teresa was in poor health half the time. She was in poor health half the time, which made it even more admirable, for her, because despite her poor health, she soldiered on. and God kept telling her, no, don't stop, I still have one more foundation, go to the next place and go to the next place, and she just, that's what made her a very strong, determined woman, a role model for women of that time, because in the 16th century, it was still patriarchal. Women had no voice, women had no rights, no power, but Teresa showed that she, with the help of God, she can do anything.
That's her rosary.
Yeah, there's also this one, which is her flagellation as well.
Yeah,
she used her flagellation as well. Yeah. It's a beautiful little free museum, which you don't get to see. But coming to Avila, this is like a must see.
We were just saying that in Singapore, very hard to access the relics. One can see from far.
Okay, this is her finger.
That's a real finger.
The ring finger of her right hand.
This looks a bit morbid.
Yeah.
In quite good condition.
Yeah, our poor Saint Teresa, she was like chopped up, when she, because everybody wanted a piece of her. She was so saintly, everybody wanted a piece of her, There are many statues and impressions of the transverbration of that moment by the angel. So this is just one of them, but you can see many artist impressions everywhere.
What is this cross?
Don't know.
There's nothing, didn't really say much about. It's not very sure.
The scholar brain churning.
Scholar thing. It's like a cross encased in a cross.
Yeah, it says this is the cross that was made by wood in the bedroom when she was born. Where she was born. Esa cruz se hizo de la madera de la colba en la nación de Santa Teresa.
Spanish is like
This it's not very long. It's alright. Yeah. So these are all her foundations.
Oh, wow, so many.
Yes. These are all her foundations in the other parts. There's one in Salamanca. Tomorrow, when you go to Salamanca, you can actually, it's walkable from the train station. Also called San Jose. So again, that convent was also dedicated to San Jose. So I've seen Salamanca. I have gone to Alba de Tormes already. Burgos not yet. Palencia not yet. Medina de Campo not yet. Where else have I been? Here you've seen just now. This is Ávila. Yeah. Valladolid I've seen. Sevilla I've been. Segovia I've been. Yeah. So the rest not yet, because there are all other parts of the country which is not so accessible.
Whoa. Yep. Step on my shoelace. Yeah.
And then they have the year that it was also founded. So this is the first foundation in 1562 August, where we were standing just now.
So this is the oldest. This is the first.
The very first. That's the very first foundation. Yeah. Then the rest all came later. Yeah. So based on the date, you can see. So that she does have a book of her foundations where she writes about her experiences for each foundation and the difficulties she faced for each foundation as well. Yeah, of course, everything will be in Spanish.
Okay.
Gracias, señora. Buen día a ti.
You're activating all your Spanish words.
Simple, or your Spanish words. It's good enough. You see, it's good enough. They are very happy that you even used to use it as greetings. They are very grateful people. Yeah.
It's been really meaningful hearing how St Teresa of Avila and St John of the Cross continue to shape not just the Carmelite order, but also Father Emmanuel's own life and vocation. But there's still more that we want to ask him. In the next episode, we'll move into some final reflections, what he hopes to gain from his time in Avila, and what his personal message he has for you. So stay tuned for the final part of this series. Like, share and subscribe so that you don't miss it. See you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Oh, that's it. My answer's so good.
Welcome back to our Avila special and to our final episode with Father Emmanuel. Over the past few episodes, we've journeyed through Avila, explored the life of Saint Teresa, and learned about Carmelite spirituality. But today, we're bringing it down to something very practical. What does all of this mean for our daily lives? In this episode, we ask Father Emmanuel for simple life tips: how to pray better, how to stay grounded, and how to grow in our relationship with God in the middle of our busy lives. If you've been following this series, this is where everything comes together.
So, Father, what do you think the Catholics today are hungriest for spiritually?
I think, okay. I think many of us are trying to find spiritual meaning in our lives in the midst of various problems such as, family issues, economic woes, uncertainty, having to deal with, for example, loved ones passing away, sometimes even too suddenly or too early. Issues of different kinds, and we want to find meaning out of it, like what is it all about, how do I understand this? And I think they are hungry for a reasonable, I wouldn't say must be a fantastic or a perfect religious or church teaching or a faith kind of thing, but something that give me something that is manageable, something that I can accept, when there is really a problem. So I think the people are hungry for spiritual inputs that they find it relatable. Practical, of course, if it's possible. But something that they can relate. I think that's the key word, relatable. Because while we have a lot of doctrines, we have a lot of guidelines which are helpful for us to live good Catholic, good Christian lives. The people want to know how to make sense of these laws without making it feel so overwhelming, so many limitations. So I feel that if I'm able to, whenever possible, make sense of some circumstances, some situations which are hard to understand, which are too unexpected, and if I can relate something, and if there are words in scriptures particularly, or feasts, or festivals, or memorials, or solemnities that can be relatable to the people, I try. And I think that this time here in Spain, in these few months, yes, amidst the intensity of the studies of a different language as well, I still have sufficient time to reflect and find little nuggets to share, find little relatable, meaningful life experiences that I hope that people will somehow be able to hear, maybe even if they cannot accept immediately, but it's planted within them to say, okay, it's a stepping stone, it's an opening for me, it's a new way of looking at things, a new perspective. I'm willing to try. And I think that's what the people are hungry for. Something that they can start on, something that they can work on. So I think that's what we, the church, have been trying, and we are still constantly trying with new issues that pop up every day, from war to sexuality to lots of uncertainty. How do we explain and make sense of all this? I think the people are hungry for a good, reasonable religious response to all of this. Yeah. But that's it. My answer's so good.
But I think it's true lah. Like people just want something that,
Relatable. It must be
as in
relatable.
when they have issues, they want something that, tell me something practical.
Correct. Yeah. Don't just
Yeah.
give me the law. Don't just
Yeah.
quote me what
Quote
the
me
CCC.
Bible.
I mean, of course, it's important,
Yeah.
right? But bring it down to my level for me, please. You know, so that it's not so cerebral. Cerebral. How do you call it? You know? So I try my best, and I think that maybe that those 10 years of being a teacher has helped me, because I had to bring concepts down to the kids.
Yes.
Right? And 14, 15, 16-year-olds, not every child can grasp difficult concepts immediately. So the job of a good teacher would be, how do we bring it down to them first, so that it excites them to want to know more, and then from there we level them up to be ready for the examinations, the final examinations, for example. And I think many of us in that sense want that possible opening. That's why the first question of the exam must always be easy, so that you feel that, hey, I can handle it. Then I dare to go to question 2.
Give you courage.
Exactly. Imagine if question 1 is already going to kill me. I've lost all hope. I've lost all confidence. So I like to be that question 1. That, hey, we have this problem. Question 1. Solvable. Possible. Manageable. And then the people say, okay, okay, I'm willing to try question 2 now. So I feel that's my modus operandi, Modus operandi.
And also, for example, when we reach out to the poor and needy, we need to kind of help them a little bit first before we start preaching the gospel.
Correct. Yeah, a lot of them, I know some people, they have shared with me, say, Ayah, Father, these people begging on the road, these people, should I give or not? If I just give them, they will never, get back on their feet, never change their lifestyle. Then I'll tell them, I say, well, at the end of the day, you give or you don't give, they may never change, But the question is whether you want to give or not. And whether they are genuine or not, you don't have to know. The Lord knows. But the Lord knows that you were willing to give. Even if they were going to be scammers, what is your $1 that you're going to give, for example? What is that 20 cents you want to pay for the tissue paper? So, the fact that you were willing to give, regardless of whether that person is genuinely a beggar or are you willing to give? So I tell them sometimes, this is my advice to them. Every month you set aside X amount of dollars you are willing for it to be bad debt. That you're willing to throw away. It's like, okay, this $5, I'm going to give. Whether that fella is a genuine person or not, never mind, $5, I'm willing to let go every month, for example, start with 5. So anybody who wants tissue paper, I have $5 worth of 20 cents to give away, for example, what I mean? And I tell them, and they say, and after that they realize that I feel okay because I've already made up my mind, I'm going to give regardless. So I think on the wider scale now, on the after this microcosm of an example, if you are willing to give, then it's regardless of whether that fella is worthy or not. Doesn't matter.
I mean, who are we to judge, right?
Let the Lord judge, exactly. So the point is, if you are willing to give, just give willingly, don't talk so much. Don't go and consider whether that fella deserving or not, am I helping him or not. If you want to give, just give. For all you know, it could be Jesus in disguise, just seeing whether you will give or not. Full stop. And after that, many people say, okay, it's a new way of looking fine, I'll try, so I don't feel so bad whether I want to give or don't want to give, because I made up my mind, I'm going to give. And this is the amount I'm willing to give, fine, good. Then as time goes by, up to you whether you want to up the amount or...
Grow in charity.
Yeah, exactly. So start from somewhere, you're right. I don't know if I'm helping the guy or not, but never mind. It's okay.
So, in your opinion, how can Carmelite spirituality speak to an anxious, fast-paced, overstimulated world today?
Wow, that's a very, very high-level, loaded question, Okay, maybe not loaded, but very high-level question. Definitely the Carmelite spirituality is not meant to solve anybody's problem, but it is one of the ways in which we can find some inner peace And I talk about interiority. What do you call it? Interiority. Sorry, the Spanish words are coming. I want to say interioridad. You know? Yeah. So this inner peace, this finding God in the interior, is what generally the Carmelite spirituality is. In a fast-paced world, in a world that is out there, and the point is, it's out there. Many of the issues we observe, we see, are out there. But the peace must come from within. And that's where Carmelite spirituality will help in that sense, because our Carmelite saints, in their writings, in their reflections, always talk about how at the end of the day, I withdraw from the outside world to find God within me. And that's exactly the charism of our Carmelite sisters, who have chosen to be behind the walls of Carmel, where they do not want to let the worries of the world affect them, and they find peace with God. So while it may be an exterior action, actually it's a very inner spirituality thing, where we are looking for God within. So for anybody who is interested or attracted to the Carmelite spirituality, will find himself or herself having to look within, having to find time to shut out the world. And sometimes we need to do it deliberately, which is why the sisters have to do it deliberately from the start, meaning to say put grills, put everything, because sometimes you need those kind of physical structures to begin with. As you withdraw from the world physically, then you have the right environment to search interiorly. So for our sisters, for them to be being able to find the interior peace, they must first create the exterior environment. So for us, Carmelite spirituality, for example, you may need to deliberately go to a quiet space, go to the adoration room. You need to do something physical outside first, you know, or create an extra room if you have, you know, or a place in your room, create a little altar for the Lord with candles and everything. Once you have created this exterior environment to set the tone or to set the spirit in which you can now start to go in. But without that effort, you're always going to be grasping at straws. You're always going to be asking, how am I going to find peace? You know, where am I going to find? But because we have not made an effort to withdraw from the world, we have not made an effort to create that environment to find God within. Of course, when you reach a certain level of experience and practice, you can start to do it anywhere.
Yeah.
Even in the MRT train, you can close your eyes and you can find God already.
Right.
You know. But I tell you, all this needs practice, because St Teresa herself said in her book of her life, chapter 1, she already said, my mind is like a wild monkey and horses running. I cannot concentrate. You see, that was her beginning. You know, when she first started out. Even in chapter 4 of her book of life, she acknowledged that for almost 14 years that she was unable to meditate, to concentrate, because her mind was just going on. But she persevered. I think the key point here is that if we want to find that peace, we must be consistent. So Carmelite spirituality is not going to be a one-stop solution at all.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Don't think that just because I've embarked on some kind of Carmelite spirituality, yay, by the end of this week, I'm going to have some kind of peace. It's not going to be that way. But Carmelite spirituality will help you slowly get there, but you need to have training and practice. It, like all things. But what the beautiful thing about Carmelite spirituality is that you can now find peace within yourself. That when you have with enough experience and practice and faith in God, there is no need to do too much in order to gain a lot interiorly within eventually.
So for someone who's watching this channel, this YouTube channel now, if he or she is feeling far away from God, what is one simple practice you would like to invite them to try?
Well, I find this, this might be not easy to reply in a very simple way, simply because I think everybody has his or her own way of finding God. Which is why again, there are many arms of the church. You know, there are many types of spirituality because some spirituality speaks to person A more than to person B. So I think it's important that everybody finds what is the best way to find God. Some people like the quiet way. Some people like the praise and worship way. Some people like cell group with sharings. Some people would rather just have silent meditation, silent retreats, for example. I think everybody has to be honest with himself or herself. What is my way? Yeah, it is, you know.
Find out first.
You have to find out first, and I think that comes with discernment. Now, what I'm going to propose my course worry for spiritual directors, because you know, it's when you speak to a spiritual director, which you then, with the right questions by a trained spiritual director, you can find out what's your best road, your road of spirituality. But of course, the issue would be we do not have that many spiritual directors to go around. Spiritual directors are also wearing many hats at one time. You know, they are parish priests, they are committee presidents of sorts. So, actually, it's good to get some kind of spiritual advice to understand where you are. But I think as your own personal reflection, how you just ask yourself this question, you know, if I say the rosary, how do I feel? And then straight away you can say it's a yes or a no. Then you can strike it off. You know what I mean? Okay, if I open the Bible, will I be keen to read at least 2 verses or 1 paragraph? And you yourself straight away will know, you know, your own automatic instinct answer will be like, no, or like, maybe, you know. So do your own assessment first. Because until everybody finds his or her own method of spirituality to reach out to God, you will always be grasping at straw, you'll always be frustrated. So I do share, that's why for me, hopefully my own little YouTube channel will reach out for those people who are, for example, visual learners, who like to see, people who with short attention span, no more than 10 minutes. Yeah, you know. So all these are helpful, and once you find your niche, you know, once you find what works for you best, I tell you, things will get on. But you got to start trying first, lah. Yeah. So no easy answer. No easy answer. Yeah.
Before we wrap up, what is your prayer or hope for anyone who's watching this episode?
Okay, so for all of you who are watching, my prayer and hope for you is a prayer of acceptance that in whatever situation that you are in right now, especially if it's a rather challenging situation, it's a prayer of acceptance that actually no matter how bad or how difficult or how unpredictable your situation may be, this is exactly where God wants you to be right now. Now, you may not like my answer, but honestly, at every moment, you and I, we are just spiritually myopic. So we think that we ought not to be in this current situation. We think that, you know, God has got it all wrong. But only after a while, only when we reflect and look back, do we then realize that whatever situation we were in, good or bad, was that best moment that God wants it for us. And I say it to you right now is because, again, as a 45 turning 46-year-old, you know, I sometimes wonder, Lord, is this really what you want me to do? And I know that the answer is yes. It's yes. Because had I been somewhere else, I may not be spiritually fruitful as I am right now. So again, it's a prayer of acceptance, because unless you accept it, unless we accept it, we will always be disgruntled, upset, questioning, and eventually, is what the evil one wants, to lose our faith. Because we have not accepted. We have not accepted it. We have not accepted that this is what God wants of me, at least at this point. So my prayer for all of you, everyone, is that we keep on finding encouragement with one another through our spiritual sharings, I hope that we all will find that glimpse of faith, of hope, and accept that situation right now, and that things will only get better. Thanks to God. Yeah, Amen.
Okay, so how can we support you during your time in Ávila?
Well, of course, the classic answer is, of course, continue to pray for me. That will be the classic answer, right? Yeah, but nonetheless, I must say thank you for all of you all who have been in contact with me, your little messages of encouragement, for some of my videos or these reflections that I put up. Many of you make an effort to just write a couple of words to encourage me or thank me. And I can tell you that as few as words it may be, they are very encouraging to me, and it gives me a lot of motivation as well as the determination to continue. So that's all I think. Of course, you can keep in touch with me through my email. On this note, though, just check that because there is a change of my email, and you can find it on the Archdiocese website. And I assure you, I do reply. But nonetheless, just keep on praying for me. I think that would be good. And I'll see you when I'm back in Singapore at the end of my studies, 2027.
A present for you.
You'll come and still give me presents.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
You can have a look.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you very much.
Thank
Oh,
you so
wow.
much.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yes, because you were saying that I saw the shepherd to the Singlish community.
Yes, yes, and I really hope to keep on.
You can see what's inside.
Can I? All right,
Yes.
very good. Thank you. Oh, cool. Oh, are these your products?
Yes.
Very nice. Okay, self koyok for that. Lovely. I'm gonna use
Different the rest of
it. Yeah.
but yeah.
What is this for? Ayo, no, thank you.
Okay. You can use it as your.
Thank you so
giving
much.
to the poor.
That's very
Yeah.
sweet. That's very sweet. Thank you. Oh, there you go.
Yay.
All right. So support them because they have been very kind, and they are the ones who are promoting religious life, sharing our charisms. Not all of us, of course, are going to be priests and nuns, brothers, but we are all called to
Yes.
live good Christian Catholic lives. So thanks again to the little flock for their life contribution to bringing up the spirituality of our Catholicism, our religion in Singapore. So God bless all of you as well, and continue to pray for them in their good works.
Thank you so much.
Pray for the boss. This is the
Boss. Okay, on this note, thank you everyone for watching this episode. But on a personal note, I'd like to thank Joy, Ryan and Michelle for really taking a whole day out of their vacation to travel from Madrid, to come all the way to Ávila, to not only visit this holy place, but to come and say hello to me and to make this video for me and for my Carmelite community. So this is a personal thanks to all of you for your time, for your effort. Deeply, deeply appreciated. And thank you very much for making me look younger on the video as well. So enjoy the rest of your stay in Spain, the three of you, and for all of you out there, like I said, thank you also for your continual support. God bless, and I'll see all of you soon. Bye-bye.
As we come to the end of this Avila series, we hope this journey has helped you see that holiness is not something distant, it's something lived day by day. From the streets of Avila to the teachings of Carmelite saints to the simple life tips of Father Emmanuel, the invitation is the same: to slow down, to pray, and to let God lead. A big thank you to Father Emmanuel for walking this journey with us and sharing so deeply. And to all of us who have been watching and supporting this series, thank you for being part of this pilgrimage with us. If this series has blessed you, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Faith Explorations and Father Emmanuel Noel. Until next time, stay rooted, stay hopeful, and may God lead you deeper into His presence.
In what ways do you see your current studies helping the church in Singapore when you return?
I think in many ways, yeah, for sure. So in these 2 years, if I can really understand better what spirituality entails, many people are very hungry, religiously speaking, to know how to build a better relationship with Jesus. And it all comes from spirituality, how you live your life and all that. So I would think that hopefully after my 2 years of studies, I will have a wealth of experiences to share, to bring back to the parishes, if it's possible, even hold retreats or talks. But of course, equally important for me, with my hopefully with a good Carmelite knowledge, is to bring back for the formation of our seminarian brothers, our Carmelite seminarian brothers, so that in their years of formation towards their profession, they will have a greater love and appreciation for our charism, for our spirituality of Carmel. So I think in many aspects, I could help the church in general, in the parish, and even in formation, and maybe even in spiritual direction, one-to-one for those people really serious in wanting to improve their lives.
What's the difference between foreman and seminarian?
A seminarian is also a foreman. Yeah, so anybody who is still undergoing formation is a foreman, right? And well, normally speaking, the seminarian is undergoing formation. So they are the same, more or less. Yeah.
Okay. So how have you been adapting to this new pace of life in Spain?
I think I've adapted pretty well. In terms of food, I find it quite easy. Nothing here has greatly surprised me. That that's something that we cannot find in Singapore, right? So that's pretty easy. And in CITeS, for example, I think they really make a great effort to give us a range of food. For example, it's not pasta. It's not just spaghetti. It's not just potatoes. We have rice, we have soup, we have vegetables which are cooked in different ways. Fish, they are sometimes grilled, or sometimes pan-fried. We have chicken which are roasted. So a great variety. So I would say that in terms of food, no problem. I think the problem is controlling, not to eat too much because it's just too good. Weather, not difficult to adapt. Partly it's also because if we stay here, the weather changes slowly. It's a transition kind of thingy, and the very fact that it is not humid, it's actually fantastic. Yeah. So that's easy to adapt. So long I'm also in the house, the temperature is pretty controlled in here, so I don't have to bundle up. But if I have to go out, yeah. In terms of the culture, I think the only thing that needs a little bit of adapting is the siesta times. When you realize that the hours of operation, when you want to go to a shop, you need to get certain services. You need to know whether they are open or not. So typically between 2 to 5 p.m., for example, many shops are not open, even the supermarkets. You see, so this is something to get used to because we are so pampered in Singapore. Things are easily available, food is easily available, but over here, it's a kind of respectful observance of quiet me time in the afternoon, and I kind of enjoy that now as well. I hope I don't enjoy it too much because it'll be hard to readapt back to Singapore. But it did shock me for a while. I was like, what?
Then do what?
Yeah, it's like even the supermarket is closed, Yeah. So that can be a bit challenging. And so we have to work around some of these things. But it's a small little thing. Easily adaptable. And now I don't even think much about it. Yeah. Initially it was quite tough, when I visited a new town and like 2 to 5, I realized that I can't even go in anywhere. It was also 2 to 5, sometimes I had to hopefully find an open cafe to while the time away. Anyway, not too difficult.
Has the community asked you to cook like some Singaporean food?
Yeah, well, fortunately no, and never will. Why? Simply because this is a retreat center, so CITeS also functions as a retreat center, so we have professional cooks. Now they have to be professional because we are cooking for the public. And the last thing we need is to have contamination in the kitchen, because it means that the whole center will close down, and that also means losing money. So no unauthorized personnel is allowed to enter the kitchen at all, to be very honest. So even if I want to do something, I cannot even go in, because like in Singapore, we need to have what, food handling kind of certificate to handle food. So over here, absolutely out of bounds. Which suits me fine, because I don't have to go. I just eat, you know. But fortunately also for these professional cooks that we have, there's good food all the time. All the time. Hygienic, good, clean, healthy food.
He just eat, then he pray,
Yeah.
he love the people. Okay.
Yeah, and just study hard. I think that's my focus is to just study now.